All right, let's dive into one of the most mind-bending, reality-questioning ideas in all of philosophy, idealism. We're going to explore this wild idea that maybe, just maybe, everything we think of as real is fundamentally mental. It's a big one, so let's get right into it. So let me just start with a simple question. That chair you're sitting on, the room you're in, what about the moon? Are they still there when no one is around to see them or think about them? I mean, our gut reaction is, yeah, of course, right? But idealism challenges that very gut reaction. It suggests that at the deepest level, reality and consciousness are completely tangled up together. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll pin down what idealism actually is. Then we'll check out its two main flavors, because it's not all the same. After that, we'll see how this idea has popped up all over the world. And finally, we'll get into the big debate it's been causing for centuries. So, first things first, what on earth do philosophers actually mean when they use the word idealism? Let's get a solid definition. Okay, here it is. Idealism is the idea that reality is, at its rock bottom level, mental. Think mind, spirit, consciousness, that's the fundamental stuff. It's not just one theory, but a whole family of them, and they all shared this core belief. Consciousness isn't just some random thing that happened in the universe, it is the universe. And to really get it, you've got to see it next to its biggest rival, materialism. Now, materialism is what most of us assume is true. The universe is made of physical stuff, matter, and energy, and our minds just sort of evolved out of that, from our brains. Well, idealism completely flips the script. It says, nope, you've got it backward. Mind or consciousness is what's fundamental, and the physical world is just what mind looks like. But, it's not quite that simple. Idealists don't all agree on the details. The whole idea really splits into two main camps based on one crucial question. Is reality literally made of mind, or can we only ever experience it through our minds? First, you've got the really bold version, ontological idealism. This is the big claim. It says that existence itself depends on a mind. No mind, no reality. Simple as that. The only kind of stuff that truly exists, according to this view, is mental stuff. And the poster child for this radical idea was an Irish philosopher, Bishop George Berkeley. He summed up his entire philosophy in this one famous Latin phrase, esse est percipi. It means, to be is to be perceived. If a thing isn't being perceived by some mind somewhere, it just plain doesn't exist. Now, this obviously brings up a huge question, right? What happens to the tree in the forest when no one's around? Does it just blink out of existence? Well, for Berkeley, objects are basically just bundles of ideas, and he had an answer for this problem. There is one mind that is always perceiving everything, an infinite, divine mind, God, who holds all of reality in place just by constantly observing it. Okay, if that all sounds a little extreme for you, there's a more subtle, more nuanced version of this. It's called epistemological idealism. And this one isn't so much about what reality is, but about what we can possibly know about it. It says we can never, ever get to a raw, unfiltered reality. Everything we perceive is shaped and structured by our own minds. And the key figure here is the legendary Immanuel Kant. Now, he was building on some really ancient ideas. You can see echoes of Plato here, but Kant gave it a modern spin. He came up with this amazing metaphor. It's like we're all born wearing a pair of mental goggles that we can never take off. So what are these goggles made of? Well, according to Kant, some of the most basic things we assume about reality, like space, time, and even cause and effect, aren't actually features of the world out there. They're more like the operating system of our mind. They're the structures our brain uses to organize all the chaotic data coming in from our senses. Which means we don't experience reality as it is, we experience it as our minds present it to us. Now, it would be really easy to think that this is just some weird rabbit hole that European philosophers went down, but that's not the case at all. This idea that consciousness is somehow at the center of it all is a profound human insight that has shown up again and again all across the globe. It's actually pretty wild. You have thinkers separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of years who came to stunningly similar conclusions. We already mentioned Plato in ancient Greece, with his idea that the physical world is just a shadow of a truer, ideal reality. But way before him, in ancient India, sages like Yajnavalkya were teaching that everything is a manifestation of Brahman, a single, universal consciousness. And this timeline just shows the incredible staying power of this concept. You see it in ancient India and Greece. You see it get formalized in 18th century Europe with Berkeley and Kant. And this is the really fascinating part, it kind of makes a comeback in the 20th century. When physicists started exploring the bizarre world of quantum mechanics, the old idea of a simple machine-like universe fell apart. Suddenly, the act of observing something seemed to change it, leading some top scientists to wonder if consciousness was a player in the game, not just a spectator. As you can probably guess, an idea that flies so directly in the face of our everyday experience has taken a lot of heat over the years. So for this last part, let's wade into the great debate and look at the powerful arguments stacked up against idealism. So in the 20th century, a lot of philosophers basically said, enough of this. You had guys like G.E. Moore who called it an attack on common sense. He famously proved an external world existed by just holding up his hands. Then you had Bertrand Russell, who argued that idealists were making a basic mistake, confusing the act of thinking about a chair with the actual chair itself. And of course, this lines up perfectly with the standard scientific view today, that matter is real, the brain is a complex machine, and mind is just one of the things that machine does. But the story doesn't quite end there. Just when it seemed like philosophy was done with idealism, those strange discoveries in quantum physics started bubbling up. Physicists like Sir James Jeans, looking at a universe where particles behave differently when being watched, said the old great machine model just wasn't cutting it anymore. The universe, he said, was starting to look less like a machine and more like a great thought. And that leaves us right here with the biggest question of all. What do you think is the fundamental stuff of reality? Is it matter? Is consciousness just a temporary accident, a brief flicker of light in a cold, unthinking cosmos? Or is it the other way around? Is the entire physical universe itself just an experience happening within a vast cosmic consciousness? It's a huge question, and how you answer it really changes everything.